Right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming back. A big welcome to everyone in the room and also everyone online. I hope you enjoyed that coffee break, hopefully the least needed of the conference, I expect. My name is Maggie Simmons. I'm the Director of Publishing at the Geological Society of London, and it's my great pleasure to be chairing this next session, which is How Smaller Publishers Remain Relevant, Lessons Learned and Best Practice Shared. I'm really ably assisted by my co-chair, Claire Moulton. She's publisher at the Company of Biologists, and I'm joined by my fabulous panel here on the stage. So we have Shanaz Ahmed, who is Director of Research and Publishing at the British Association of Dermatologists. We have Helena King, who is Senior Editor at the Royal Irish Academy, and we have Susan King, who is Executive Director at Rockefeller University Press. Each of them are going to give a short presentation where they're going to share their experiences as smaller publishers, so explaining how they work together to deliver for their community, how they collaborate to instill best practice, and how they strategize to make sure that they are delivering value and impact to their communities. There'll be a question and answer session at the end, so I encourage everybody in the room and online to please submit questions through the app as we go along, so you don't forget them when we get to that part, but you can, of course, raise your hand at that part of the session as well. So, a little about the content of this session. We reference smaller publishers, so I thought I should define what we mean by that. And we're really talking about the long tail of publishers, so those outside of the big 5, the big 10, the big 15, however you want to characterize it, and I know that can be a little controversial. So really, those of us who are in the vast majority, but who individually publish only a small amount of annual scholarly output. Now, there are 4 of us on stage, and Claire, and we all represent very different smaller publishers, but we can't be entirely representative of everybody within this group because it is so broad and so diverse. But we feel like there are common challenges for us all, irrespective of our size. And when we mention relevance and success, that can obviously be winning awards and developing innovative features, and we'll hear some of that in this session, and we'll hear an awful lot of that through the rest of the conference. But for many of us, that's not always realistic within the resources that we have. So being successful is also doing the basics really, really well. It's about making sure that your organization is sustainable, and it's about ensuring that you deliver impact and value to your community. So, we hope today that you're going to leave this session with some tips, some ideas. We hope that we've sparked some curiosity for you, because if you don't work for a smaller publisher, the strong likelihood is that you work for an organization that does work with smaller publishers or who provides services for smaller publishers. So we hope this will be of interest to you all. I have just a few slides to set the scene for our first speaker, Shanaz, who's going to be speaking from her perspective as someone who's worked for many societies who publish with larger publishers, often commercial, university presses, in general, just a larger publisher. I'm really proud to be a council member of the Society Publishers Coalition, or SOCPC, as we're colloquially known. There's an infographic on the screen. I must apologize. This is slightly out of date because we're growing so rapidly. There's now 139 members, and we are a friendly and supportive forum for society publishers, community publishers, charities who publish as part of their mission and who reinvest the surplus that they generate into their disciplinary communities. So, we have a very vibrant online forum where we share information and knowledge that would be difficult for us as smaller organizations to acquire ourselves, and it's a really supportive and friendly place. So you'll see a QR code on the screen. If you scan that, you'll find out a little bit more about us, and we hope that you will want to join. 75% of the membership of SOCPC are societies and other organizations that partner with other publishers. So we thought that we would undertake a survey to really just understand and get some insights from their experiences of partnering. Anecdotally, and we hear in this meeting as well, we know that over the past few years, societies have had a little bit of a shock, maybe, when they've come to the point of contract renewal, because the terms and the services that they're offered have been quite different to what they're used to. And this can be really difficult to navigate for a small organization. So we asked our membership what they found important when they were tendering for a new publishing partner. Now, the top two factors, let me just explain the chart first. You'll see on the screen, there's a Likert scale. To the left-hand side, there's a lighter green color. Those are the factors that are most important. To the right, left and right. To the right-hand side, there's darker green and darker blue, and those are those factors that are less important or not at all important. So the top two factors are probably not a surprise at all, and I think if we'd done this survey 7 years ago, it would be exactly the same. So societies want reliable income. They need that in order to plan their charitable activities. Probably not a surprise. They also want collaborative and positive relationships. And I think that's true of all parties. That's absolutely what we all want, and that's what we need to be successful. Now, the next two factors are possibly a little bit different. The first is the availability of transformative agreements, and then appropriate flexibility versus standardization. And probably this reflects the landscape that we're in, with the move to open access and the need to increase efficiency. Interestingly, the factor at the bottom, open access policies, is possibly reflective of societies relying on the strategies of their larger publishers, or being cognizant that they have limited ability on their own to influence that. And that's why working together with others is a good way of achieving that scale. So we also asked societies what they are experiencing in their publishing partnership. So the plot on the left-hand side, we asked societies what they had been asked to consider by their publishing partners. So almost 50% had been asked to consider accepting more articles. Almost 40% had been asked to consider changing article types. Almost 80% have been asked to standardize their workflow, and I'm sure any of us who publish will recognize that. And just over 30% have been asked to consider changing their business model. So for example, flipping to a fully open access model. And on the right-hand side, we asked about societies' experiences when tendering. Around 14% received an offer for only part of their portfolio, which of course can be a shock, or their existing partner has declined to bid. And similarly, bids have come with conditions that require societies or organizations to flip to fully open access, for example. Now, the good news is 90% are aware of the NISO Transfer Code of Practice, so very well done, NISO. Probably need to talk to the other 10%. And for any consultants in the room, almost 90% would consider using your services when tendering for a publishing partnership. So you're still in a job, which is great. And finally, we asked what the biggest changes societies were experiencing within their publishing partnerships. Now, I've used the very scientific method of a word cloud, and I can only apologize for that. But we've categorized the responses around some common themes. Completely unexpectedly, open access is the biggest change. Now, I think we could have guessed that, and that's the challenges of migrating to open access for a small organization, but also the availability of transformative agreements, which is what we heard before. Reduction in revenue was often cited as a fait accompli, and obviously for societies, this is a huge challenge. They require the revenue and the surplus in order to plan their charitable activities. If that goes down, their charitable output also goes down. So that's a huge challenge. Quantity over quality was also cited, and really this is linked to the pressure to increase published output in an article-driven economy, the need to increase efficiency, and to drive down costs. And for many years, learned societies and other organizations have really focused on delivering high-quality, highly selective, and highly tailored publication outputs for their community. And there's a bit of a conflict here and a change of mind required, because whilst societies completely appreciate why they need to do this, it isn't necessarily aligned with what their mission has been. And finally, we heard about the increase of risk. And really this reflects the fact that several years ago, all of the risk would have been borne by the larger publisher. They have the scale and they have the ability to adapt to changing landscapes and changing markets, whereas the smaller publisher did not. Over time, this has got to a point where it is sometimes shared between the larger publisher and the society, and in some cases is being fully borne by the society, which is, of course, an awkward position to be in if you're not used to it. So, whilst these results are probably unsurprising and are completely reflective of the environment that we find ourselves in, it's nice to see it quantified, and I hope this sets the scene for the challenges that smaller publishers are experiencing when they partner with a larger publisher. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to Shanaz, who's going to speak from her experience of managing a partner-publishing relationship for success on all sides. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to say a big thank you to Maggie and Claire for this wonderful session at ALPS. And also a big thank you to ALPS for supporting this session. I think it's a really wonderful opportunity for us to be here and for me to speak on behalf of a lot of us who come from small learned societies. So thank you, Maggie, for that wonderful introduction, and I'm just going to do the best I can from here. So just to say a little bit about the British Association of Dermatologists, who we are, and Maggie's explained there are a lot of us in the UK at least. So we are a membership organization for clinical dermatologists and about 2,000 members. We have 2 publishing partners, Oxford University Press and Wiley. I have an in-house team of 5 people, and I think I'm quite privileged to have that. I know there are some learned societies with just 1 person or 2 people, so it's a novelty. Our journal, the top journal that we have, is over 130 years old. And what's interesting is that the journal was actually set up before the society. And the society was then set up because the journal started to earn income, and there was this revenue that they needed to kind of, and they found that they had this community. So that's the story. And as Maggie alluded earlier, the publishing income and reputation are really important to societies like us. We've just published our first living guideline in collaboration with another society, the British Society for Rheumatology, so I think that's really a nice thing we've done, and we do a lot of other things, and I won't go into that. I've taken a small a study by Rob Johnson and L. Williamson, the study is about to be published. It hasn't been published yet, and I'm very grateful to Rob if he's in the audience to allow me to share some of his slides and studies. So just to give you an understanding of scale, there are about 277 learned societies in the UK in 2023, and there used to be over 1,000 in 2005. Now, this just reflects either the societies have stopped publishing or some of the societies have just ceased, and is representative of the changing landscape. As you can see from this graph, there's been an overall decline in self-publishing. So there used to be 68 in 2015, and that's gone down to 44 in 2023. But what you can see is that most of the changes seems to be in medicine and life sciences, the biggest changes. And most of the other, in the other fields, I think most societies still continue to publish either single journals, so there's not been that much change. And it's a complex partnership model that we're seeing now. This is another slide from the same study. As you can see from the slide, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this is not my data, but it shows that the decline in revenue is not keeping pace with inflation. And again, it kind of goes back to some of the themes that Maggie's alluded to. We've all heard about our wonderful keynote speaker today and his views about open access. And also that, open access has brought with it some more challenges in terms of secondary rights losses and other things. We're all struggling to diversify portfolios, and we all want to innovate. And keeping pace can be challenging for some of us. For small societies, the reliance on publishing income is huge, and it can vary from something like 30% to 70%. This is just a graph that I've pulled off from Scopus, and it shows the change in access type over time. And as you can see, gold open access is increasing over time, and I think it's only a matter of time when it's going to overtake subscription model. So that's that. Maggie's already explained brilliantly about what a learned society is and who we are and what we do. So what is a publishing partnership? And I think a lot of you in this room already know that. So apologies if I'm speaking to people who know this. So it's when we outsource some of our publishing activities to an external party, a publisher, a university press, or another vendor. And in terms of the publisher, they will work with another society. And again, it's a synergistic relationship, the way I see it. The society gains stable income, the reach, infrastructure, business support, and the publisher has the benefit of working with a prestigious society and their community. And most learned societies, like us, will work with one or two publishers. And it requires work on both sides. And I use a corny thing to say that it's like a marriage partnership, so it requires a lot of work. How to make your society publishing partnership work. And in the middle, I've put stakeholder and communication, but really I've had lots of interesting discussions today already, and actually in the heart of it is the community. Everything that we do is about our community. They are the most important people. That's why the learned societies exist. That is their mission. And the partnership works on several things. Trust. We've got to have our goals and values and KPIs all aligned. We are looking for a partnership who is, collaboration is important. Content, of course, is really important to both parties. And knowledge sharing. I think we can learn from each other's. Again, this is a bit more about how to make your society publisher partnership work. As I've said before, from the society's perspective, we represent the community's voice, so that's really important. And from the publishers, and we can learn from the publisher because they come with a huge wealth of experience from their large portfolio. Similarly, you've got your other stakeholders in a publishing partnership. You've got your society leaders, your editors, authors, and in the publisher, you've got all the various business areas. You need to have clear lines of communication and responsibilities. And I think as a society publisher, I think something that Maggie was saying earlier as well is that we need to own our areas of publishing. Like, we should really understand what we are doing. We need to, it's really important that as a small publisher, we are strategic, that we are lean, and we are agile, and we, because we have limited resources. It's useful and helpful if it's possible to have a shared vision. It could be a digital one, a technology one, with your partner, with your publishing partner, because so that both parties know what you're doing. It might be worthwhile collaborating with another society, and I think we're going to hear more about that from our other two presenters. Shared learning from other societies, and I can say that from SOCPC that I've learned a lot more from all the other societies around me, and it's a wonderful support group along with ALPS. Keep an eye on the competitor, that goes without saying, but I think we have to continuously evolve, adapt, and innovate, and I think for small learned societies that becomes more and more important. Ensure you have a journal development plan. Again, when it comes to outsourcing, I think it all comes down to how much, what can we afford, and scale, and what the society really wants to retain control of. And most importantly, join. And I think ALPS has been really, really supportive. I've worked with a lot of different societies. They've been there through this whole journey, and I would encourage everyone to be part of ALPS, to be part of SOCPC, COPE, ISMT, and other various groups. Then there are these decisions, dynamics, and relationships. And one of the things I always tell my team is that we are sort of like civil servants. We have trustees we report to, we have your publishing partner, we have a lot of people to influence and educate, and we play a really important role in that. It's important to know who makes the decisions in the society, and then again, within the publisher side of things, it would be really helpful for us to know, where are those key decisions being made, what's influencing them, Limitations, time, governance, budget. I think those things we are all very, very familiar with. But I would also say that as learned societies, I think we get very good at working with very little resource. And I think most of you are familiar with that. So, we know how to work with a little bit of budget. And I think, again, it comes down, some of our work involves balancing the society's needs. The community would want something, and the publishing landscape. So we've got to kind of educate the trustees to say, well, this is an important change that's coming that we've got to incorporate into. And equally, we have to go back to our publisher and say, this is something that our community would like, a technological innovation that they would like. How can you help us make it happen? I mean, obviously, it's up to us to keep up to date with publishing initiatives, and that's why ALPS and coming to these conferences is a wonderful opportunity for us to learn. One thing I would say about change, context is important. It's really important for us to understand as to what is driving this change. Is it an industry-wide change? Is it a publisher initiative because it's about streamlining workflows? And again, I think there is a little bit of give and take here. And whatever we do, community needs to be at the heart of it. And I think from my experience of being in scholarly publishing for the last 20 years, what I've learned is that it's a wonderful group. Everybody wants to work together. So I think, facilitating discussions and finding solutions is, the way to go. I've just pulled this sort of thing from the civil servant systems thinking, and I think it's trying to get learned societies to think that you need to use a systems approach when you're trying to think about change. And this is a really good example of how to manage change when you've got multiple stakeholders. So, you should use one of those systems approaches. And we've done that. I come from a maths background. And we had a problem where we couldn't understand what was happening in the post-acceptance. No one could understand why there was huge backlogs in the journal. And I spoke to one group of people. They would say, well, X said it. Y would say, oh, no, I think go speak to your production. Ultimately, we had to sit everybody down. We had to make a process map and then basically look at all the redundancies. And today, thankfully, 6 years on, we're still publishing on time or ahead of schedule. So I think it's kind of developing certain learned societies. We do need to kind of develop business ways of thinking and changing. This is about contracts and RFPs, and again, Maggie's alluded to that earlier. This will be shared, so I won't go too much into detail, but I'm sure all of you already do this. Know your publishing contract in and out, and decide early, at least 2 years in advance, I would say. Speak to your own publisher first, and inform them before you announce anything externally. You might want to consider using an external consultant. We didn't because, well, that's just us. And then you can get a lot of support from SOCPC and ALPS. So, use your support system. And if you do decide to transition your publisher, I would say that it's a bit like a telephone exchange system. So you've got to take one wire out very carefully and plug it to the next system. So don't underestimate the complexity involved. And these are just some key points about transition that we've learned because we've just gone through transition. And I think Maggie alluded to this earlier, so I would say the NISO Transfer Code of Practice, brilliant stuff, checklist, use it. Allow 12 to 18 months after you've made the contract, signed the contract to make the actual transfer. And I would like to say a big thank you to both Wiley and Oxford University Press because we had a brilliant transfer, seamless transfer, but you need to really work hard at it. It's not a quick fix. Manage your copy flow tightly, check your licenses, copyrights, map processes so that everything's, and remove redundancies. If you don't need something, get rid of it. Review, adapt, adopt, and take a fresh look. This is the time to take a fresh look. Why are we doing this? You involve stakeholders at relevant points and communicate. Communicate, I cannot acknowledge how much we had to communicate at different levels. Don't change goalposts halfway through the system. That's just asking for trouble. Don't just transfer your old processes because that's how you've done it. This is your opportunity to look at it and start afresh and listen to your incoming partner who might bring some valuable advice. Don't forget to inform your authors there's going to be a slight delay in depositing articles into PubMed. And don't forget to anticipate that you're going to have to keep some of your subscription articles free. And do not underestimate time and complexity. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Léir Cordia, Smisha Helena King, agus Tamim Agarhor Sínstruck in Academic na Héireann. I'm Helena King, the Senior Editor at the Royal Irish Academy in Dublin. And Bavalum Wikas Goala ALPSP, agus Claire Moulton, and Maggie Simmons, us ucht on Cura Ave live in. I'm very grateful to be here with you, and I'm very great. It's a great opportunity to be on this panel, and I want to thank Maggie and Claire and ALPSP for giving me the opportunity and for scheduling this session on how smaller publishers remain relevant. Now, it probably hasn't escaped your notice that I'm 5'2", but I don't think that's what they mean by smaller publishers. So, my contribution is focusing on humanities and social science publishing and on book publishing for the most part. So I'm going to speak from the perspective of the Royal Irish Academy. We're part of a member organisation, and publishing is only a small part of what the organisation does. So I'm going to focus a little bit on our place within the Royal Irish Academy and our team, what we do, or the size of the team and our duties and so on, and the output and our publishing model, our publishing strategy, and the challenges that we are facing and some remedies that we've got to deal with those challenges that we're trying to implement. So my little schematic here talks a little bit about the Royal Irish Academy and our place within it. I've put us in the centre, but because we think we're the most important part of the Royal Irish Academy, but of course my colleagues in our research programs would think differently, and so would the members. So it's an organisation that has more than 670 members, and they're academics who've been elected by their peers. We have a governance structure with president, council, and an executive director who organises things on a day-to-day basis. We have research projects covering everything from biography to digital preservation. There are 6 in total. We have programs and engagement office. They run lectures and organise events and so on. We have interdisciplinary committees made up of academics, but they're not members of the academy. There are other academics within the country. We have a library, a very important research library. It's been there since the beginning of the academy. So our publications office, there are 7 of us, as you can see. So there are about 75 people on staff in total. So we're 1/10 of it. So publishing is a small part of what we do. But what do we publish? Well, the academy was established in 1785. It's been publishing since 1787. Originally, we published Transactions and Proceedings, which were papers researched and written by members of the Academy, and they were read before the fellow members of the Academy at meetings. So the tradition of publishing proceedings still continues in the form of 6 annual journals, and these range from mathematics, biology and environment. Proceedings, we've one journal still called Proceedings that deals with history, archaeology and so on. ERU is an Irish language and philology journal. Journal of Earth Sciences, that's what it says on the tin, and we've got Irish Studies in International Affairs. So that's our journals output. We also, our book publishing, which is what I'm going to focus on a little bit more. Our research programs, they all publish in their own right, and we support them, but they generally run their own programs for publishing. And we also publish with them in partnership their ancillary books. So instead of their hard research and so on, we publish books based on their research programs that are more appealing, say, to a broader public than just the academic public. We do monographs, which are, again, strongly academic output. We self-publish, and our strategy for books is that they are scholarly, loosely written, persuasively argued. They're all peer-reviewed. We try and publish books that are illustrated, and our publications must help the Academy to achieve its strategic goals, which is to recognise and support excellence, share knowledge, preserve and promote cultural heritage and our language. And that our strategies for keeping ourselves relevant, we delve into those strategic goals a little bit. We have a PRISM imprint, which you can see there, which is something we developed to help with outreach, so to go beyond the very scholarly public and to communicate scholarly material to a wider public. So we're trying to increase the numbers of these books that we publish. It helps to raise the profile of the Academy, but also keeps us relevant to a readership beyond just scholarly publishing and academia. What don't we publish? I guess that's kind of important as well. We don't publish monographs that are based on PhD theses or they're based on conference proceedings. We organize and run a lot of conferences, so we would, you know, if we went down that road, we'd probably just be publishing conference proceedings and we wouldn't have a chance to do anything else. We don't publish Festschriften either, because if you've got 760 members in your organization and you decide to start publishing a Festschrift for one of them, they'll all say, well, why can't I have one? And again, you would publish nothing else. As I say, we collaborate internally with our research projects. So some of the book covers you can see here. The first one, the handover, we did that in collaboration with our colleagues in the research project on documents on Irish foreign policy, which looks at the history of Ireland through our diplomatic service, basically. We published the middle row on the left. It's early medieval Ireland from AD 400 to 1200, which is a scholarly archaeological monograph. And then on the bottom row, the far right one, which is just called Nouth, that is basically a guide to one of our one of our UNESCO World Heritage Sites. But this guide is based on 7 volumes of archaeological research that have been published over 30 years, I think. The excavations went on for a lot longer, but we've distilled the knowledge that was in those 7 volumes into a guide for the general public, but also it gives you a background that you can delve into the archaeology a little bit more if you want. So again, this is helping us keep relevant, stay relevant. We're kind of evolving a little bit. So challenges that we face and how do we keep up with them? Just keeping an eye on my time here. So try to keep up with developments in scholarly publishing. That's a challenge for us all. We've all mentioned it. So organisation memberships, it's a big part of that. So we're a member of ALPSP, we're a member of SOC-PC, we're a member of Publishing Ireland, which is the Irish Book Publishers Association. And again, that's a membership-led organisation, and we share knowledge and experience and we collaborate to solve problems, like we do in ALPSP and SOC-PC. So again, membership of organisations, like-minded organisations that you can work together. You've got a bigger voice if you're cooperating with people. We're also a member, in terms of our journal publishing, we're a member of IREL. We have an agreement with them. That's the consortium of research libraries, Irish research libraries, apologies, and staff and students who are participating institutions. They have access to our journal content, and members of those institutions, they can publish articles in our journals, open access, without APC charges. And our content is, we work with service vendors then as well to help deal with the workload. We're a small team, so we work at Manuscript Manager to help manage our peer review for the journal process. For books, we still do peer review ourselves within the office. So I'm looking for peer reviewers, I'm contacting them, and so on. We work with Crossref for DOI registration for our journals. We work with Project Muse. They manage our journal subscriptions, and they do sales, access, order fulfillment, license the content to subscribers. Oh, beg your pardon. For hosting content, we work with a lot of other providers as well. JSTOR, we use that as an ebook platform, and we pay a per title charge for them to host our ebooks. They also host our book and journal backlists in a collection called the Ireland Collection, and we were able to get involved in that through JISC many years ago. And Project Muse also hosts our journal content. Again, we used to host the content on our own website back in the day, but it's not possible to do that. Our IT team is small, we're small, so we need the help of a vendor, a supplier to do that. Another challenge is open access, which we've been listening to in the keynote speech. So again, to help us to manage open access, we are part of a national open research forum grouping in Ireland. It's to set up a feasibility study to determine whether it's possible or it's useful to have a national research platform in Ireland. As individual publishers, it would be very difficult for us to set up and operate open access. So there's a feasibility study that we've been involved in, and we've been testing various platforms to see if they'll work, or to see if it's actually a useful thing to have a national open platform or not. Another challenge in terms of books is that we're a very small organisation. We have very small print runs, but of course costs are high for publishing and so on. And maintaining an audience and keeping an audience is also a challenge. So how do we do that? Well, we do that in terms of visibility of our books, our book design, nominating books for prizes, and doing additional things associated with our books. You'll have seen some of our book covers. We're lucky to have a really excellent designer on our team. We'd be lost without her. But we nominate our books for prizes where relevant. So last week, one of our books won the European Association of Archaeologists 2024 book prize. So we were very happy to accept that prize. We work with our cultural heritage organisations as well, our National Monument Service, our National Museum. They've partnered with us on a lot of our books. The photograph there on the top in the middle, the Department of Foreign Affairs commissioned a poet who was also a member of the Royal Irish Academy, the late Evan Boland, to write a poem to commemorate 100 years of suffrage for women in 2018. So they asked us if we would publish it. So Evan wrote the poem. The woman in the middle is an artist called Paula McLean. We commissioned her to draw art for the book, and it was translated into the 6 working languages of the UN. The woman on the right of the photo did the translation into Irish, and it was read in the UN Security Council chamber in all of the languages. So we were able to do that through the auspices of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Another book we did with the National Museum, there's a line of stamps on the right-hand side there. On Post, our National Post Office, they issued a series of stamps based on the 100 objects that were covered in that book. And then on the left, we did a book to commemorate our 100th anniversary of our 1916 revolution, and we ended up, we commissioned an artist to illustrate the book. It was a series of biographies of people who had been involved in the revolution, and then somebody said, oh, wouldn't they look great on buses and on trains? So we spoke to the transport authorities, and on 8 train stations that are named after people who took part in the revolution, we created permanent boards, so those are in the train station. So again, it's outreach, it's access, it's partnering, keeping relevant. So that's it, Gorv Magwiv, and thank you for listening to me.
Hello, good afternoon or good day wherever you are. Hello, my name is Susan King. I'm the Executive Director of Rockefeller University Press. We are a department of Rockefeller University, which is a private biomedical graduate-only university in New York City, which focuses primarily on the biological and biomedical sciences. RUP publishes 4 journals, 3 of which are owned by Rockefeller University, and 1 of which is co-owned, which I'll talk about in my first slide. But to open my presentation, I'm going to share a quote from Rachel Burley, the Chief Publications Officer of the American Physical Society. This is taken from a recent review published in Scientific Observer, and it's about the purpose-led publishing coalition recently announced amongst AIP Publishing, IOP Publishing, and APS. And I think Rachel's quote sums up eloquently why publishers should partner. Full disclosure, I serve on the APS Publications Committee. So this is from Rachel. Scholarly publishers have been competing for a long time, but we believe that this is self-limiting. We can offer more through collaboration, which increases our value to researchers. No two journals are identical in aims and scope, level of selectivity, or readership. Different journals foster different, distinct academic communities, enhancing engagement and collaboration within and across disciplines. Their motivation to create the coalition centers around the desire to serve the scientific community better by working together more closely to address common challenges. I wholeheartedly agree, and in the slides that follow, I'm going to share with you how RUP has been collaborating with other publishers. I will share 3 examples and lessons learned, both what we expected to learn and anticipated learning lessons. So, with my first slide, Life Science Alliance, which is jointly owned between Cold Spring Harbor Press, EMBO Press, and Rockefeller University, is our longest standing collaboration. Launched in 2018, it's a gold transfer open access journal. It extends a commitment to authors who've been declined from the journals listed here, from the 3 partners, 9 journals in total. It extends a commitment to either peer review or publish their manuscript if it's been declined by these partner journals for reasons of novelty. Establishing the LLC that manages Life Science Alliance took about a year and lots of consultations with lawyers. The LLC legal document runs to hundreds of pages, but ultimately this LLC has served the journal and a three-way partnership between Cold Spring Harbor, EMBO, and RUP well. So, as hoped and expected, Life Science Alliance now financially contributes to the 3 partners. It's met our shared goal of improved author service. We see this in our LSA author satisfaction services. And the talented staff editors we have at EMBO Press, Cold Spring Harbor Press, and RUP, working with our stellar LSA executive editor, Eric Sohi, ensure that we can get a rapid decision to those authors that are being declined by the partner journals for reason of novelty. We can get them a rapid decision and a rapid commitment in the editorial decision letter that the author receives from the partner journal. Unanticipated was the benefits of actually spreading responsibilities for marketing, production, financial administration, and editorial across the partners. We at RUP, we're responsible for the production and marketing. My colleagues at Cold Spring Harbor Press are responsible for the financial management and partly the editorial, and my colleagues in EMBO Press are responsible for editorial too. When we launched this, we thought that we would grow. We thought that others would join us, and it was unanticipated that we would fail to grow. We've reached out. Some of you may be in the room. We're still here. We remain open. Please, let's talk. But this has been a big success for us. So my next example is the Manuscript Transfer Network. This was launched a year after Life Science Alliance in response to concerns that Life Science Alliance might undermine the cell biology journals published by other smaller publishers. So we launched this network between the Journal of Cell Science, the Journal of Cell Biology, and Molecular Biology of the Cell. This was a lot simpler setup than Life Science Alliance. I think the 3-way memo of understanding runs to maybe about 5-6 pages or so, a lot less. I'm looking at Claire there. Perhaps less financially rewarding, but we didn't get into this for the money. And it certainly, again, provides a level of author service. Differently from Life Science Alliance, there is no commitment to peer review and publish from the journals that are involved. So, as expected, the editors of the journals were very supportive of this increased level of author service. My fellow managers at Life Science Alliance were understandably maybe a little bit grumpy by the launch of the Manuscript Transfer Network. Pragmatically, though, we all recognize that authors would continue to select the journal that they felt most appropriate for their work, even if they had an offer from Life Science Alliance for peer review or publication. What surprised me was that authors declined by the Journal of Cell Biology would continue to go directly to either Journal of Cell Science or Molecular Biology of the Cell, bypassing the link that we had built for transfer. That said, of course, I absolutely respect their decision, and we are here to serve authors, not to control them. So, moving on to my third and final example of publisher collaboration. This is Review Commons. This is a very worthy, I think, very promising cross-publisher initiative led by EMBO to reduce the cycles of peer review by providing journal-agnostic reviewer reports to over 20 participating journals. Journal of Cell Biology and Life Science Alliance have participated in Review Commons since its launch in 2020. So here, what I would say is just a little bit of background. Less than 1% of the submissions we get at the Journal of Cell Biology come from Review Commons. They do, however, come with peer review reports. This initiative was initially grant funded and is now looking to become financially sustainable and scalable through charges to the participating journals with the opportunity to contribute in-kind editorial services, and all covered by structured formal agreements between the participating journals. I really applaud EMBO for launching this, and I also applaud Company of Biologists for being the first to start contributing in-kind editorial services to support this initiative. I must say the next phase of Review Commons reminds me a little bit of the effort in setting up the Life Science Alliance, LLC, all of those agreements to be structured and negotiated. Hard work, but necessary for this worthy endeavor to continue. In closing, I return to, that's a bit too quick, sorry. In closing, I return to Rachel's quote. Scholarly publishers have been competing for a long time, but we believe this is self-limiting. Let's serve our scientific community better by working together more closely to address common challenges. Thank you for listening. Now to the Q&A. I don't need this. I'll come sit back down.
Great. Well, thank you to all of my panelists. Excellent job. We are in the question and answer session now. I'm going to invoke chair's privilege and ask the first question, and then we'll come to those on the app. We haven't got any on the app. I'll come to you in the room, I guess. So my question to each of the panelists is how you determine who you will partner with, and optionally, who you might not partner with.
I can't remember who said was going to go first. Was it me?
We'll do it in order.
Okay, we'll do it in order.
Oh, okay. So I think it's a good question, Maggie, and a trick one as well, if I may say so. I think we've all heard a wonderful quote by the lady whose name I forget.
Rachel Burley.
Rachel Burley about collaboration, and I think and I think that's the heart of it, is that we are looking for someone to partner with, who will collaborate with us, who will treat us as an equal partner, and is willing to listen to what the community has to say, because I think at the end of it, that's what we want. And also and we've heard about AI and technology and innovation, so I think that's the other thing that we would be looking for in a partner. And somebody who we wouldn't partner with, I think someone who doesn't fulfill any of those things. So
I'm going to turn it around slightly and say sometimes you can't choose who you partner with. You're kind of given it as a fait accompli, that you must work with this person or this organization. So especially in terms of our governance of our organization, we have a publication committee and we evaluate proposals and so on, and we might say, okay, yeah, this one we think will work, this one we think won't work. But sometimes for one reason or another, it's like, no, we must do this project with this person, this organization, and you may not choose to do it, but you have to do it. So in those instances, you need to set out your ground rules really, really carefully and stick to them as much as you can. So for example, if it's a book that you have to partner with somebody who maybe funds another part of your organisation and they want this book published. So maybe set up an editorial committee with some of you people within your organisation, say these are our ground rules, this is what we want the book to be, this is what you want the book to be, how do we get it to be that book? And there has to be give and take, of course, you have to collaborate, but you also have to stand your ground sometimes.
Sure.
So sometimes you can't choose, but when you can't, you have to make the best of it, but you need to set your ground rules. So that's kind of not an answer to your question. But
No, I think it's a very sage question, a sage answer actually, because I mean, I think even in a collaboration, there are going to be times when you're going to have butt into problems. I think a little bit came with that, with the launch of the manuscript transfer network between cell biology journals. But yes, if you know what your ground rules are, and we had that from the LLC, then everything is fine. So, but to your question, Maggie, I mean, I guess. I'm open to, I think we're open to collaborating with anyone. We would be, if I think of Life Science Alliance, if Nature or Cell came knocking on the door, would I turn them away? Probably not, for the betterment of the community, but I might be, and sorry for the folks from those organizations that are sitting in the room, it's not about you, it's always all about me. and probably the reason I would be a little apprehensive is just the size and scale there.
Yeah.
But if it's something that will serve the community well, and we can establish fair ground rules that we both understand will work, then why not? Think of who we're serving.
Sure, thank you. No, I completely agree with you. Finding the right partnerships relevant to your context, so it's necessary for a thriving and diverse landscape. Right, team in the room, it's over to you. So hopefully some people have got some questions. Claire, do I assume there's nothing on the app? Nothing on the app.
There's a lady over there who's got a hand up.
Okay.
And there's someone in the room.
We are smaller publishers doing, what are smaller publishers doing to make up the revenue shortfall due to declining financial return from their journals?
Okay, that's a good question. I'll repeat it in case you didn't hear it. You can read it in the app. What are smaller publishers doing to fill the gap in revenue shortfall?
I can answer some of it. So I think in my society in particular, we've taken a huge education role in educating our membership about the declining revenue. So we have actively doing other things. So the charity is actually doing other things, has recognized that there is a need to diversify income generation. So we are looking at other educational activities that the society could do. So I think that's one of the things that we've done, and not having to solely rely so much on publishing income. Susan, did you?
Yes, sure, I can jump in. I mean, we're just a university press. We have what we have. So I would say that what we've been looking to do is to increase the value of our journals to subscribers. Subscription revenue, even though our journals are hybrid, Life Science Alliance is gold, but the 3 other journals are hybrid. And so subscription revenue basically is about 85% of the revenue that underwrites our cost of operation. So there we've been thinking about how do we add value to subscribers. We have taken the decision that we will be paywalling our archive, dating back from 2008 and prior. This is because we do see that libraries do pay attention to usage reporting, and as the amount of gold open access we publish, that usage statistic drops away. I see this pragmatically as actually paywalling the past so that we can have the ability to continue to provide the level of editorial service and production service and marketing that we do, which is so highly valued, again, recognized through our surveys, so that we can actually continue to do that and more broadly disseminate the research of the present and the future. So.
Great, thank you. Did you want me to come to you, Helena?
Because we do books and journals, so obviously the subscriptions for the journal, it is falling, and then part of our strategic plan is that we will flip completely to open access, or try to, by the end of 2025. So I'm not saying that the books will have to sell more to make up the shortfall, but because we publish books as well, we do have some income from book sales.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, in the room we have some hands up, so if the microphone comes to you, please can you state your name and also where you work.
Hi, so I'm Lizzie Brophy, a publisher at Sage,
I promise I won't ask a question at every session. But actually, so one of the things you've all really brought out is that the community is at the center of what you do. It is your focus. Obviously, when working with bigger publishers or even other smaller publishers, they don't have that link to the community, and it's going to be through you. So my question is, what is it that you think you need publishers to understand or even to do in order to fulfill, you know, the importance of the community, what you think you need to give to the community? What is it that you want them to know, you want them to do to help support that?
I think I can speak to that to say that I think we want them to listen to us and listen to what the community is saying, what they want, and also the small or big publishers to recognize that, you know, I think somebody else, I think it was, again, the late Rachel who alluded that all journals are different, all societies are different. So sometimes we get into this sort of, you know, you've got to fit in this one size box. And societies, we really struggle because all of our communities are so diverse. So I would say, listen to us, talk to us, we understand limitations, but work with us.
Thank you. Shanaz is our partner publish representative, so I think I'll leave that one there. Do we have any more questions?
Hello, Aaron Küster. I'm from CSIRO Publishing in Australia. Quick question. First of all, again, a very useful session. ALPS, great to be here. Quick question. How concerned are you about AI detection and AI submitted manuscripts? And what sort of protection do you have around that? And do you collaborate with other publishers around that? Thanks.
So the question was?
How concerned are we about AI and how we
Specifically relating to manuscript submissions.
Yeah, so we are very, well, I would say very concerned about that, want to be making sure that the machines that we're feeding are fed, you know, peer-reviewed, published articles. Generally, I would say I am sort of picking up, I hope, a little bit from what I understood from Jake's talk. I personally am very concerned about the rights retention strategy and the making a CC BY license on accepted manuscripts, which have been peer reviewed, but haven't gone through, as you all know in this room, the production, the checking, the improvement of the figures, the addition of metadata, and another round of author proofing. So I am particularly very concerned about feeding the machine dumb information and us all ending up getting dumb and dumber. So I'm very concerned about that.
I think it's a common problem. I think we're all facing that problem. And I think, again, in our keynote speaker mentioned about bias. I think my main concern is, one of the main concerns is also the bias that's creeping into these systems because we don't know what's being fed. So if there are technology firms out here, vendors, let us know what data sets you're using to train it, because that would help us build trust. You know, the whole scholarly landscape revolves around trust, and maintaining that trust is really important. And we're talking to our publishers. We're really, one of the reasons I'm here is actually to talk to people to understand what tools can we use. And I'm part of the AI working party group as well at ALPS. So if you've got ideas and you've already got tools and detections, or you've got ideas, then come and talk to us. And I'm listening, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, because we don't know, you know, if we're all from small publishers, small organizations, so we don't have the wherewithal to go and, you know, build something ourselves that will help to, you know, go, okay, but this is AI or this is not. So we need to collaborate and go and talk to each other.
Yeah, but then again, I think the advantage we have sometimes as being small is we can trial something.
Yeah.
So, you know, there might be a possibility that we could do a really small pilot test. Yep. But we need to talk to somebody about it. We've been talking to our publisher, and our publisher is talking to us about tools that they're developing. But again, I think it was mentioned earlier that they're all in testing phase. So we're all concerned, but as an industry, we don't have the answer yet.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any more? Okay, there's some more hands. We're definitely not going to be able to come to all of them. Maybe one more.
Hi, Charles Wally, the British Pharmacological Society. In Maggie's excellent slides at the start, you talked about increased risk. And I just wonder, are smaller publishers ready for increased risk? Do you think you have the right governance structures, the right conversations with your partners, with your communities, with your members, trustees, funders? Just curious how you view that.
Good question, Charles. And it's a process of education, and I was talking to my publisher, who shall name here now, who's from Oxford University Press, and I was saying it's a process of education because we have trustees who turn over every 2 years, so I have the same conversations pretty much every 2 years, and I'm sure there are a lot of you like me who have governance structures, and yes, societies are risk averse, and it is our job in the middle. We sort of the marriage broker, if you call us, who sits in the middle, who has to educate the trustees, and then we have to go and talk to the publisher and say to them, look, this is what the community wants, and the publisher will say to you, no, sorry, no can do. And then you have to go back and talk to the, so there is this it's a constant dialogue. So I think you're right about the risk. There is risk for real societies, but like I said, there are 277 of us. And I think what Susan said, we need to stop competing. We need to collaborate more. We need to join together and talk to each other. And again, I think SOC-PC, ever since I've joined, I've learned so much from all the other societies that I think it's a wonderful shared learning that we can grow and learn from each other. There is hope yet.
There's always hope.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. If you have questions, do grab any of us after the session. I'm conscious I've got 37 seconds to wrap this up before the next one. So we hope you found this interesting. We hope we've prompted some of you to think, oh, I could do that, or there is something I can do to better support publishers, to support smaller publishers. Thank you to my lovely panel. It's been an absolute joy to work with you. And the next session will be the awards finalist lightning presentations chaired by David Summer. So thank you all.